And am I just going to go up there right now?
Yeah.
Tell me when to start.
You start whenever, and then introduce everybody if you wish.
Oh my goodness. All right. Oh. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Sheppard Accelerated Elementary School. Say that a few times quickly. My name is Janice Siebert, and I am the president of the Roseland School District Board of Trustees. I've been an elected board member for 24 years, beginning when we only had 2 schools in the district with 650 kids, to now when we have 6 schools with 2,800 kids. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all today to one of those wonderful schools. Welcome to Assemblyman Mark Levine, Mayor Chris Rogers, Sonoma County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Harrington, our special friend, Senator Mike McGuire, and members of the press. I'd especially like to welcome Governor Gavin Newsom and his team today. We're so honored. What a pleasure it is to be able to show you the dedication and heart here in Roseland. We are so proud of the accomplishments of our students and of the dedicated support their families give to their educational success. Our wonderful and talented staff have worked so hard during this challenging year to guide and teach them through distance learning, striving to maintain that connection that is so important to student success. It is a huge joy to see our teachers, staff, and students finally reunited in person this week. We have joyful noise here once again. I would also like to acknowledge our acting superintendent, Lori Biggers, and Sheppard principal, Jenny Young, as well as our community partners, those people who have supported and encouraged our students with enrichment and growth opportunities, tutoring, mentorships, scholarships, and more. We are very grateful to be here together today to celebrate this milestone for Sheppard Elementary and Roseland District, and to share this moment with our visitors today. Welcome, everybody.
Mayor, it's your turn.
All right, thank you so much. My name's Chris Rogers. I'm the mayor for the city of Santa Rosa. First and foremost, I want to thank the governor and his staff for coming out here to Roseland to check in on our community. Those of you who have been with us before know that Santa Rosa is a place that has been hit with repeated trauma, cumulative impacts of trauma through wildfire and now through the pandemic. And Roseland in particular has been a focal point of where many of our positive cases have come from and where many in our community have been struggling. I want to thank the governor and his team for helping to get kids back in schools. I want to thank our teachers for persevering through many Zoom calls over the last couple of years. For many of us, the start of our recovery is once kids are back in classes and we have some level of normalcy. I'm going to turn it over to our Assembly member, Mark Levine, for a couple of words as well.
Thank you very much, Mayor Rogers. Thank you to the principal here at Sheppard Elementary, their superintendent here for the school district. Thank you to Governor Newsom for your leadership, for really putting a stake in the ground, saying we need to have students in the classroom this year. You think about society and the health of society, and you think about 2 things, particularly as a parent. I've got a 6th grader and an 8th grader. You want your children to be healthy, and this has been a year where you've really cherished health, and you want your children to get a great education. And I think what we're seeing here at Sheppard Elementary, that kids are able to get both, that we can follow safety precautions and safety protocols, keep our children safe in our schools. The science demonstrates that schools are a safe place for students, and that they can get the learning they need. And I think, again, as a parent, something I care so much about, the emotional support and the mental health that we need our children to have, the social interaction that is just so important for our kids. And between my colleagues in the legislature, and again, I've got so much gratitude for Governor Newsom highlighting this issue, that we are not going to end this school year without getting our kids in school, that we're seeing this. We're day 2 at this school of kids coming back into the classroom, probably the most important thing that we've done for the 6 million children in the state of California. And this has been a great week for the work of the governor and the legislature. The governor has been crisscrossing this state. where yesterday he signed legislation on a wildfire package. And this is something that could have been signed today here too, because this community knows so much the dangers of the climate emergency that we are all facing. And so again, a lot of gratitude to the governor, highlighting important issues to Santa Rosa and Sonoma County. Thank you, Governor Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll sneak up there. I appreciate it. Thank you, Assembly Member, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Doctor. Thank you, and Janice, for the privilege and the opportunity to be here today. It's it's a remarkable district we're in. It's a remarkable county. It's a remarkable school. This school, 95% of the school Hispanic, 95% of the school Latino students. This school represents a unique set of challenges, not only as it relates to the education of these young children, but contextually the challenges this community has faced. And that's been highlighted by the Assembly Member and by the Mayor. As we walked in, Doctor reminded all of us of the trauma and the impact of these wildfires in this region and the impact they've had on this community, as well as the children here at this particular school. But of course, this last year has been particularly challenging on not only the children themselves, but their family members, and of course, the entire school community. And so I just want to acknowledge that trauma. I want to acknowledge the challenge that each and every one of those families have faced over the course of the last year, and the challenges in decision making that those parents have to decide to send their kids back in person to be educated. We value in-person education. I think universally we value in-person education, but one has to acknowledge the anxiety that many of the parents are feeling, many of the children are feeling, many of our leaders in school communities are feeling about preparing for in-person instruction, particularly as we deal with mutations of this virus, as we deal with many different variants that have taken shape all across the United States, not least of which here in the state of California, and as we continue to battle this deadly disease in this pandemic. This disease has not taken the summer off. It will not take the summer off. It didn't take spring break off. It didn't take Easter weekend off. It remains as deadly as it's ever been. That said, it's a race with the vaccines, and it's a race to continue with all the non-pharmaceutical interventions that have mitigated the spread of this disease that lays claim to this status now for California. 23+ million doses of vaccines have been administered in this state. That's larger than all but 6 nations in the world. We lead the nation this last week in terms of the lowest positivity rate in America, among the lowest case rates in America. We are making tremendous progress, but we're not there yet. Mission is not yet accomplished, and we cannot put down our guard. We can't take off our mask. We need to be mindful, and we need to be stubborn about the safety interventions and health interventions that are essential to sustainably getting our kids back into in-person instruction, not least of which here in this remarkable school. And so I'm here in that spirit, sober, mindful of the moment we're in. By no stretch of the imagination have we turned the page and now think this is behind us. And so we march into this extended opportunity to get our kids back in-person instruction, looking anew at the school calendar, looking anew at our approaches to intervention and learning loss, though the phrase learning loss is questionable because in order to lose something, you have to have gained something. At the end of the day, it's really not learning loss. It's the unfinished learning that needs to be done in person that we really need to tackle with intensive and comprehensive interventions over the course of the next number of weeks through the end of this school year. And then, of course, extending into the summer, where we provide the summer enrichment and summer school opportunities that are essential to get our kids back up, not just academically, but as the Assemblyman was saying, the incredible importance, the imperative of addressing the emotional needs of our kids. So much of school is not just hard academic education. It's about socializing. It's about connecting in an emotional way to others. It's about the relationships that are being formed. So we talk about social emotional learning. That's foundational, and that's a principle in terms of our efforts to get our kids back into in-person instruction. There's simply no substitute for that enrichment that comes from being in school, being with trusted friends, as well as extraordinary leaders, particularly our teachers, but also all our classified employees. And let me just acknowledge the teachers. There's no greater messenger in terms of building trust that schools can safely reopen sustainably than one's own teacher. And so I just want to acknowledge the incredible work that's being done every single day, has been done over the course of the last school year by our teachers under challenging, incredibly difficult circumstances, and the work that now needs to be done as we get our kids back into school to work through this trauma, to work through this anxiety, to work through the emotional challenges. I can't even imagine, and Janice, principals here and others, what it must be like yesterday when kids were being dropped off, and parents probably had a lot of questions. And just that whole process of dropping off a kid, and then that experience and expression when the kid's back home. This is a challenging transition, but we're finally at that point. 9,000+ schools as of last month of our 11,000 schools in the state have firmly either reopened for in-person instruction or have announced a date for in-person instruction. Every single day, hundreds of schools are reopening. Proof point, San Diego this week. Proof point, San Francisco this week. Proof point, the largest school district in the state of California, second largest in America, Los Angeles, opening hundreds of schools in their communities. We can do this, and we must do it. And we must do it sustainably, and we must prepare now for full in-person instruction come this next school year. That's foundational, and that's principle. That said, in order to do that, we have to prove, not assert. Prove that we can safely do this, prove that we can continue the progress we made after we prioritized our teachers and classified employees to get vaccinated, that we finished that job, to prove, not just assert, that we can test our kids. That's why we provided 3 million antigen tests. That's why we partnered with our own state lab. No state in America doing more on the testing front than the state of California, with our own state lab, Valencia Labs, in partnership with our school system. We have teams of folks, strike teams, that are safety teams, that develop strategies and interventions and supports, technical and otherwise, both from the state and the county, as well as the local levels. Partnerships on issues related to outbreaks, new data requirements, more transparency, a new Safe Schools Hub. And I encourage you, all the parents, community leaders, those that want to know what's going on in their community, go to schools.covid19.ca.gov. Schools.covid19.ca.gov. That's the new Safe Schools Hub that provides real-time information about the status of your schools. More transparency, more accountability, more testing, more vaccinations, and more support. And I want to thank the Assembly member for his leadership. This legislature providing $6.6 billion to address the needs of intensifying our interventions, providing more tutoring, providing more supports, and providing the flexibility, recognizing one size does not fit all. The unique challenges in this particular school are distinctive from even other schools in the district. And so we wanted to provide that support and that flexibility, $6.6 billion to address those needs. Might be physical, might be PPE related, though we did provide 3 months, the state, of free PPE. But we might want to do more. We have the tools now, the technology, providing those Chromebooks. This school has already done that. And I want to applaud this school in particular for providing Chromebooks for every one of their kids. But we still have hotspot issues. We still have the quality download speed issues. So there's still work remaining there. Whatever the needs are, whatever those gaps are, we have provided that $6.6 billion to address those gaps, those needs, with the kind of flexibility that each school, not just each district and each county and each community in this state, deserve. We also are providing a historic level of funding for K through 12 education this year. Historic, without precedent. Not only in the Prop 98 side, but an unprecedented amount of support from the federal government, including an additional $15.3 billion. $15.3 billion that comes from the $1.9 trillion new stimulus program. So the schools have never been more resourced, and with a resourceful mindset, we have the capacity to finish the job to get all of our kids safely back into in-person instruction. At the same time, and I'll close with this, at the same time recognizing, as I began, I end, the unique challenge, particularly in our diverse communities, and let me be more specific, particularly in the Latino community in California, and those parents that have experienced the worst of this pandemic, and that unique trauma and that unique anxiety as it relates to reopening schools presents a challenge, and we must acknowledge that, we must address that, and we must be sensitive to the needs of those parents in particular and those children in particular. And that's why we do provide an option for those children, for those parents, where we continue to provide that hybrid model or provide that instruction online and supports offline in order to give them the confidence to rebuild a framework of support for getting their kids back safely into schools as well. And so that's a broad overview of where we are. I'm a parent of 4 young kids. The oldest just turned 11. There are few things more important to me than the quality of their education and their unique experience. And again, this is not unique to me. As some of them said, there's 6+ million children in our school system that deserve a high quality education and deserves those mental health supports and deserves the kind of intervention and high dose support that is needed to work through the challenges and the experiences and the trauma over the last year. But I'm grateful to be here. I'm very proud to be here. This is the week we've been waiting for, where we're seeing massive scaling of our children returning back into schools. And Janice, you said it better than anybody. There's no greater sound than the sounds you'll be hearing in about 20 minutes of those kids starting to scream and yell, and they see friends for the second day in a row, some of them, some for the first time in months, and start playing again. And the picture of that will be painted even more brightly when those basketball rims are returned. You promised me, to those backboards behind me. With that, of course, we're here to answer any questions.
Governor Jody Hernandez from NBC Bay Area. You mentioned 9,000 schools are returning, but not all of them are. What do you say to those districts and those parents? A lot of very frustrated parents, a couple of districts in Contra Costa County that have said they will not reopen for the remainder of the year.
I want all the schools to reopen. I've been crystal clear about that going back to December. We put out a specific strategy in December to safely reopen our schools for public instruction and in-person instruction. We put out $6.6 billion, and I was very grateful that the legislature embraced that in order to help advance that cause. The 9,000s from March, as I just noted, hundreds of schools are opening every single day. So mark my word, that number is much closer to 11,000 than 9,000, but there are outliers, and we've got to work through those issues. It's too much at stake. And so the bell has rung on those that want to hold back that progress. And I want to challenge those districts, but I also want to support them. Look, I'm mindful of the stresses that they're under. That's why we put up the money. That's why we created this schools hub. That's why we put up more testing. That's why we're doing the vaccination. I prioritize those teachers. Got a lot of grief when we did that. 10% of all those first dose vaccinations went to classified employees, went to childcare. Because again, our teachers, a lot of them can't go back to school because of their own child care needs. We prioritize those child care workers as well. We put up $1 billion+ to support child care in the last 12 months. Another $400 million we're putting out in our May revise to help support our child care workers as well. It's all connected. So again, I'm not here to do any, I guess what I'm saying is I don't have a closed fist on this. I have an open hand, but I hope they have an open heart, because the consequences of delay are profound, particularly for our diverse communities. And if they need more, let me know what more you need. This is real money we're putting up. Money's not an object now. It's an excuse. Again, I said resources and a resourceful mindset. That resourceful mindset is needed at this moment. It's alive and well here at this school. You walk around, you see that resourcefulness. Folks that are committed, not interested in getting their kids safely back in-person instruction, and made it clear to me they're looking forward to seeing them back 5 days a week fully in just a few months. That commitment is real, and that's why I'm here today to celebrate that commitment.
Governor Newsom, Mark Albert, NorCal Public Media here at CBFM. You talked about the emotional and social needs of
Well, what's the big hurry? Every single day, our kids are set back. They're not moving forward. It's a big hurry as a child deserves. Once, look, these child's minds, their resiliency is extraordinary, but their minds are precious. What's the hurry? It's about our future. It's about your future. It's about our country's future, not just our state's future. The hurry is we can do this safely. We know that. We know that. Some of them said it well. The data, the science, if you're into data and science, forgive me if you're not. If you're an ideologue, I understand that. You're not open argument. You're not interested in evidence. Evidence is overwhelming. We could safely do this with the right interventions, with the right modifications. And that's why we provided real support, put out guidelines. Been there for months and months making the case anew. We've looked at the data all across the rest of the world and in districts large and small across this country. We can do this. I understand the hesitancy. I understand the stress. I understand the anxiety. But that does not compare to the stress and anxiety we'll have when we look back and dream of regretting that we could have, would have, should have prioritized our children at a critical moment in their young lives. There's still plenty of school year left. And I made this crystal clear, and I want to make it crystal clear to you, if I may, and to everyone that you may share it with. You may choose otherwise. The reason we put up $6.6 million, reimagine the school year. We're not, I mean, we're in a farming community, which I know well, but we no longer need to be tied to an agrarian calendar. Use this money to extend learning opportunities, extend the school day, extend the school year. Who says you have to end on June 1st or June 15th? Who says that? We're not saying that. We're saying the opposite. Reimagine it for the kids, for your children, for our future. We'll be there to back you up with historic investments. It's not just the $6.6 billion. It's all that federal dollar, all those federal dollars that are coming. You'll see in my May revise in just a few weeks, the amount of money we're putting to K through 14, not just K through 12 education. It means unprecedented, truly unprecedented. We have the money to do it, but do we have the mindset and the commitment and resolve? And that's what I want to offer, that flexibility. Not mandating that, but the flexibility to give those choices. And so we have more voice for local schools and teachers and communities to advance the cause of educating our kids. Thanks. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Forgive me.
Governor, just to clarify, you support that in the new school year in fall, the schools who want to keep doing virtual options for the parents, they can do it? Because we have heard some parents who say that they were forced to go in person when they didn't want.
Yeah.
So do you support the hybrid model for the new school year?
Well, look, I always believe in meeting people where they are, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have in education broadly. Forgive me. One size does not fit all. And so customized learning experience, personalizing it, to me, is foundational. And I think a lot of the lessons we've learned this last year will make us even stronger moving forward, because I think we've understood that, particularly with this online effort. That said, we want that flexibility, but our default is to get kids back safely in schools. But look, by August, I'm expecting by June 15th, substantially, to reopen this economy again. We're at 1.7% positivity rate today. We have 23 million people vaccinated. There'll be over 30 million people vaccinated just in a number of weeks. We'll be at 40 million by the middle of next month, the end of next month. By August, everybody who wanted a vaccine will have had a chance to have a vaccine, and we'll have many different choices of which vaccine. So I would expect and anticipate that the anxiety will give way to some new reality by August, and that will be an exception. And I think you always accommodate, but to me, that's an extreme exception. And I expect all our kids to be back. That's what I expect, with caveats, always, with caveats. Expect our kids back safely in person instruction in the fall.
Governor, can you mandate that schools give the option to, there's a very decentralized system. California is the size of 21 states population combined. I say that all the time, but I do it to impress upon you the complexity of governance in a state as large as ours. There's no other system of public education in the United States like this system. As a consequence, you have independently elected school boards, county, local. You have a lot of voice, and you have a lot of flexibility. It's designed into the system.
And so mandates are often not looked upon as favorably as you would like to think. That said, we anticipate and expect our kids back safely in in-person instruction this fall, and you'll be hearing more about that in the upcoming weeks and months, and we'll be working with Assemblymember and his colleagues to advance that cause in more formal ways, but with the spirit that defines our system of governance well intact. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, forgive me.
Just wanted to ask, because we'll probably start talking a little bit about next year. And part of that competition locally as well as junior colleges and community colleges. Santa Rosa Junior College came out last week with a plan to stay largely remote. I talked to the president, he mentioned a lot of uncertainty about that timeline that we've been referencing here. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, look, I love the question. I'm processing as he answers. I understand the uncertainty because we've been in this mindset for a year. But maybe I see a different future than some are seeing. I see a much brighter future. And I see it happening sooner than people expect. And I think that's the shift. You know, there's an old adage, once the mind is stretched, it never goes back to its original form. By the way, that's what I love about this school, with this college-going culture for these young kids. I love that. My mind has been stretched in this context. There's a bright light at the end of this tunnel. We're seeing it with the vaccine rates. We're seeing it with the positivity rates. We're seeing it across this country. Variants aside, we have 1,097 UK variants. It's not Michigan. We're not Florida. I admit and acknowledge it's a race against the variants. In fact, the UK variant aside, the biggest variant for us is the West Coast variant. There are two. There's over 12,500 that we've sequenced. That's, to me, more relevant to California's unique conditions, but we are mindful when you're 11,000 or almost 1,100 UK variants that we have to keep on top of that, and we are. So one thing I know about this pandemic is, and I've said this 100 times, I'll repeat it probably until I say it 1,000. One word to describe the last year is humility. And the J&J announcement yesterday is a perfect example of that. When you're moving with expectation and then new challenge, new roadblock presents itself. So we're always mindful of that. But I really believe that in a few months, not only we're going to reach that June 15th deadline, where you're going to be back to some semblance of normalcy, but by this fall, once again, that bell will have rung, and I expect people enthusiastically will be making their way into community colleges, our CSUs and UCs and private universities, as well as our K through 12 system.
Governor Gavin with KGO TV, different topic, but just from here, the town of Windsor is going through some turmoil. The mayor, Dominic Foley, accused of sexual assault. Do you think we should resign?
I literally know nothing about it, and I don't say that lightly. First I've heard of it. Maybe I'll ask Santa Rosa Mayor more about it on the way out. Forgive me. Yeah. Yeah.
The topic of the state's water crisis, what steps and actions is your office taking, and do you plan to declare an emergency?
Well, we'll declare an emergency if it's necessary. We've made significant adjustments, and we made a number of announcements over the course of the last number of weeks. Yesterday, last week included, yesterday in Butte County, Fresno County, the week prior, about some of the organizing that we've been doing for a number of months in anticipation of drought conditions. We have not made the determination of whether or not this is a drought emergency. That comes with emergency authority that not everyone may want to invest in one individual, but it also comes with obligations that everybody also needs to be mindful of in terms of potential impacts. So we're assessing all of that, but unquestionably, second year drought conditions. I have leading our charge, the person that led the efforts for the previous administration, the Brown administration. We've already drafted executive orders. We've already organized an internal strike team. We've already notified hundreds of water users, going back weeks, the Department of Water Resources, about pending conditions. That was codified in the annual survey, the snowpack survey, 59% on April 1st. And we are in real time working with the Biden administration, and I want to reinforce why that's important. We've never had a relationship, at least I have not had the privilege of this relationship over the last 2 years with the federal government that we do today, to look at flexibilities, because the federal government plays a huge and outsized role in terms of water policy and water allocation, also pending litigation. And so we're also working in real time through some of those issues, including conversation directly with the Interior Secretary 2 days ago. So in the days and weeks, we'll be making additional announcements, very mindful of the growing anxiety around water. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Governor. Good to see you today.
More mandates.
Governor, I'm excited. I become eligible tomorrow.
Just reminding me, everybody get their vaccines tomorrow, April 15th. But we'll be going around the state tomorrow, reminding everybody no restrictions now on eligibility starting tomorrow. So encourage anyone that has not yet gone to get a reservation to take a look at the most proximate place where they can get one of these vaccines. More and more are being made available in pharmacies, not just clinics and the mass vaccination sites. We're receiving slightly more vaccines this week than we did last week, and we anticipate exponentially more over the next number of weeks. But we're on track tomorrow, and we believe